Kia ora and welcome to this episode of The Amateur Austenite. I'm Frances Duncan, author, Austenite life coach. With me is Rachel Pilwar, book buyer, Austenite and all-round nerd.
Hi!
Today we're discussing chapter 33 of Emma by Jane Austen. In chapter 33, Emma continues to hate on Mrs. Elton.
Fair.
Then she says to Mr. Knightley, "You like Jane?" And he's like, "Yeah, no." Opening line of this chapter. Emma was not required by any subsequent discovery to retract her ill opinion of Mrs. Elton. Her observation had been pretty correct.
I love it. It's a great line. It makes me feel better about not retracting my ill opinion of Mrs. Elton as well.
You could imagine Emma being so self-satisfied about that.
Well, I was going to say she's a good judge of character. She's an okay judge of character, but she was very correct in this one instance.
She describes Mrs. Elton as self-important, presuming, familiar, ignorant, and ill-bred. She had a little beauty and a little accomplishment, but so little judgment that she thought herself coming with superior knowledge of the world to enliven and improve a country neighbourhood.
If the two of them duked it out, Emma would win.
How is Emma so worldly when she's never left Highbury?
Practically, Mrs. Elton would be more worldly than Emma. Especially because Emma is so, she won't associate with certain people and things, like people from trade. Mrs. Elton probably does have a bit more in her favour in that one respect. But trying to lord it over people?
No, it's not really cool.
She's just so condescending in every way.
Even Mr. Elton, he believes her own hype. He has this air of congratulating himself on getting Mrs. Elton.
As we said in the last episode, they're a really good match. They're both equally ambitious. And be proud of your wife, but also maybe tell her to cool it because she's new to town. And if she's not careful, she's going to make enemies and not friends.
Miss Bates loves her, so everybody just goes with what Miss Bates says.
Miss Bates is such a pure character. It would take a lot to make her dislike someone.
Yeah, even when Emma's a bitch, she dislikes herself rather than disliking Emma. I can't imagine the friendship between Miss Bates and Mrs. Elton because they both talk so much.
Mrs. Elton would hate not being able to get a word in because Miss Bates would be talking. And Miss Bates would... I think she probably wouldn't even realise if Mrs. Elton wasn't happy. And their conversation... Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me either. They're just such different characters.
Maybe it's just that Miss Bates is so welcoming to Mrs. Elton and other people wouldn't be the same way.
Miss Bates would definitely be the nicest to Mrs. Elton, make her feel like she's already part of the community. Any information that was passed on to Miss Bates, and she would then tell everybody else.
And you got to remember that Miss Bates was the vicar's daughter.
Of course.
So her mother had the same position that Mrs. Elton now has.
Yeah. Miss Bates would be a lot more respectful to her as well in that respect.
Mrs. Elton starts to dislike Emma. It is good because then Emma doesn't have to see her, but they won't be mean to Emma, but they will both be mean to Harriet. Emma deduces that Harriet's attachment had been discussed between them, and Emma's part of the story was told in a way to make Emma appear a shitty person and him be this awful Emma Woodhouse tried to marry me off to Harriet, so we must hate both of them. But we can't actually be mean to Miss Woodhouse, but we can be mean to Harriet. You judge people on how they treat people beneath them.
Yeah, and they're both awful in that respect. Emma is better, but only moderately. At least she wants to be Harriet's friend, but she does see Harriet as more of a pet project than an actual person in some ways.
They're sneering and negligent to Harriet, and Emma would never do that to someone, even someone she didn't like.
Yeah, that's true. She'd always be polite. She'd never try and actively make someone feel bad. She would be civil, but she wouldn't be friendly.
We see a lot of Emma in this entire book holding her tongue from telling people off or creating arguments and trying to make sure everybody's happy.
Most of the mean and nastier things Emma thinks, we're reading it in her mind. Yeah. She's not saying it to people. The way she would come across, just with her words, is very different to how it is internally, yeah.
Mrs. Elton is basically in love with Jane Fairfax, because everybody is in love with Jane Fairfax.
Another reason for Emma to dislike Mrs. Elton, because she likes Jane.
She's taking my girlfriend. She's going on about Jane being in retirement and obscurity and thrown away. She obviously thinks that Jane is going to be in Highbury, that is the plan now, that she is stuck there. She's timid, and for those who are at all inferior, I like when they're timid. She is not inferior to you.
Yeah.
Jane Fairfax may not have money, but she's got everything else above you. She's got class, she's got elegance, she's much more talented, she is more beautiful, better manners, better standing in society. She is a better rank of society than Mrs. Elton.
She's friends with better ranked people as well.
Mrs. Elton tries to get Emma on her side just before Mrs. Elton starts dissing Emma. We live in a style which would not make the addition of Jane Fairfax the least inconvenient. She is classing herself with Emma, and she's deciding what Emma should do with her time and money, going, so we're going to mentor Jane Fairfax. That's what we're doing.
And Emma's like, hell no.
Jane doesn't deserve this. Does not deserve this. And she's like, she's calling her Jane Fairfax the entire time. Let me not suppose that she dares go about Emma woodhousing me.
I feel like this is one of the first instances where Emma is sympathetic to Jane. I wouldn't wish Mrs. Elton's company on my worst enemy. Jane is kind of who Emma sees as her worst enemy for at least a good portion of the book.
When we're talking about Emma holding her tongue, though, she thinks several things that she could say that she thinks would make Jane uncomfortable, and she doesn't. She doesn't talk about Ireland, and she doesn't bring up the Dixons because she thinks that something happened between Jane and Mr. Dixon.
Yeah.
So she purposely avoids things. She avoids talking to her about the piano because she feels like she's in on the secret. She's not always so bad.
Talks about it to Frank Churchill, and luckily Frank can be trusted with that discussion.
Luckily.
Because Emma trusts Frank, that's why she would tell him, but she obviously doesn't trust Mrs. Elton, so she'd never tell Mrs. Elton anything, any suspicion that she had. That's Emma protecting Jane from someone who... Emma is correct that Mrs. Elton can't be trusted with anything, and even a rumour or whatever. She knows that Mrs. Elton, if she even got one hint, Emma's theories were... everybody everywhere would know. Yeah. Even if Mrs. Elton liked Jane, there's no way Mrs. Elton would be quiet about it.
Because it's some great gossip. And she knows something, so it's very superior in her to know things. Because she does that when she finds out about the engagement at the end. She's so superior because she thinks she's the only one that knows about the engagement. But Emma also knows, but Emma has to pretend that she doesn't. It starts Emma into thinking about, one, why is she still putting up with Mrs. Elton? She talks to Mrs. Weston and Mr. Knightley about it, being like, I don't understand how she can put up with this and why is she staying here. She's like, she's staying here month after month rather than return to her superior companions, and she's having to deal with privations of every sort, like deprivations of all these things. Mrs. Weston's like, look, her aunt is great, but as a constant companion, she must be really tiresome. And we've got to think about when Jane Fairfax is going to the Eltons, you've got to think about what she's leaving behind. And Mr. Weston's like, yeah, she can form a just opinion of Mrs. Elton. Pretty sure. She's not stupid. Mrs. Weston goes, yeah, I reckon also her aunt's eagerness. Miss Bates may have committed her and hurried her into greater appearance of intimacy than Jane would have been comfortable with, which totally makes sense.
Yes, so much sense. Even without that final line about Miss Bates 100% would have been pushing. If she likes Mrs. Elton, she definitely would have been pushing. She would have been like, oh, well, Jane will come over and spend time with you, or, you know, or we'll come and visit, and would have kept going to visit. I think that's the thing as well, because in the previous chapter, everyone's having to go pay their respects to the new bride. Miss Bates obviously would have been very early on in that process. Yes. But Miss Bates also would be the person who would be in between every 10th visitor from the village. There would be Miss Bates again, you know? She would constantly be going to go and, like, see them, I think, to continuously pay respects. She would definitely have been telling Jane to go with her, so they would have probably visited a lot more than other people in that first little bit anyway.
And you'll remember her because repeat visits.
Yeah. I think, yes, that Miss Bates would have pushed her into it a bit more, but it's true, Jane could use the escape, because who else's company is she? It's not mentioned that she goes to anybody else's place. No. You know, it doesn't mention that she's got any other, like, friends, because Emma's definitely not her friend, and then thus Harriet's not her friend. Yeah. She stays in Highbury because home with her aunt. Imagine being around someone all the time, that same person, being like a carer in a way, like, you know, a caring companion, like never being able to switch off. God, it would be tiring. So then this is a lovely break. But then you've got Miss Bates and then Mrs. Bates, and it's like she's probably also having to help look after Mrs. Bates. And then Miss Bates never stops talking, so actually isn't nearly as bad as being at her aunt's place. And so of course she'd want to find some ways to escape that. And if that's hanging out with a condescending woman who you might not really like that much, sometimes the biggest bitch is the lesser of three evils.
And it means that she's not stuck in that one-bedroom house.
Yes. Oh my God.
Mr. Knightley reckons that Mrs. Elton will talk to Miss Fairfax differently than she speaks of her because Mrs. Elton will be awed by her superiority of mind and manner, and she'll treat her with respect because such a woman as Jane Fairfax probably never fell in Mrs. Elton's way before. True. However, as we see later, unfortunately not the case. Mrs. Elton's like, you need to take this job. I've got a job for you. You need to take this job. Oh, you want to go to the post shop in the rain? That's not cool. I'll get someone to do it for you. And she's like, no, I can do it. No, but I'm going to tell you what's going on. Like, bullying Jane.
Yeah. Jane would have very little to say because Mrs. Elton is so confident in her decisions being correct ones that she'd just bulldoze over everybody. In Mr. and Mrs. Elton's relationship, who bulldozes who more? I feel like it would be Mrs. Elton.
I feel like it would be
But
Mrs.
he's
Elton.
also pretty stubborn and has his own opinion. And he likes a confident woman, but he'd still want his wife to be subservient to him. So would what he says go? But if she said, no, I don't want to do that, would he listen? Or would they argue and try and convince each other? Or would she say, no, shut up, do it yourself?
That's a hard one. Because I do feel like Mrs. Elton will always come out on top.
I think I want to know more about the dynamic of their relationship.
How long until it sours?
Yeah, and they're really well matched with their ambition and things, but also their confidence, stubbornness, determination that they're correct in all things. At what point does that become animosity? Things to think about.
Because we don't know how relationships go long term except for the major characters. The last chapter when Austen's like, there you go, and there's the happy ending, they're married and they're happy.
And they have kids and yada yada.
But we don't know what it's like for other characters. And it's not like they can separate.
No. Oh yeah, of course not. Divorce is a thing at this time, isn't it?
You can only divorce if the woman has cheated. And it takes an act of parliament.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And it's not like they had enough money to live separately, which is what some people did.
True.
They just live separately.
Or, like in Pride and Prejudice, one of them just goes and lives in his library full time.
I'm not sure if Mr. Bennet would divorce Mrs. Bennet if he had the chance. Because she's his source of entertainment.
He loves her in his own way, but he's also hiding from his wife in his own house all the time because he's so tired of her.
There's a whole thing in Austen where she often talks about if someone had married a better wife, they would be a better person. And like Mr. Elton, had he married Harriet, he would be a better person. John Dashwood, had he married someone different to Fanny, he would be a better person. And it's this idea of the wives having quite an impact on their husbands' personalities and futures.
I guess also in Mansfield, I mean, Lady Bertram's not the worst character. Her husband would have been better if she was a nicer influence as well.
I love Lady Bertram though. She knows how to be a rich lady.
Yeah.
She is doing rich lady right.
Mm-hmm.
None of this Lady Catherineing trying to boss people around, just like, I'm going to look pretty and get drunk on the couch. Or drugged on the couch.
Drugged on the couch. I'm just going to lie down and be on drugs. Woo!
But I look fantastic.
Can you imagine what Lady Catherine's husband would have been like?
I wonder if she dominated him.
Dominatrix Lady Catherine. Riding crop and leathers.
Well, there is a book.
Is there?
I think it's Promise and Promiscuity. Charlotte is wearing some of Lady Catherine's gowns and Mr. Collins comes in and he loves it.
Oh my god. Of course Mr. Collins would want to be dominated by Lady Catherine. Actually, now we're on the subject. All the weird kinks of different characters in Austen's books.
You want to know something even more disturbing about kinks, though?
What?
Apparently, you inherit them.
What?
Yeah.
No.
Apparently.
Mm-mm.
Mm-hmm.
How?
I don't know.
I thought kinks were all psychological kind of things that
We learn a lot of stuff from our parents. I know, it's so disturbing.
I don't want to think about that.
No.
Does that mean Mr. Collins' mother was a really strong, dominant figure?
Actually, his father was really dominant, so it makes sense that he goes towards Lady Catherine, who's quite dominant, because it feels familiar to him to have someone dominating him. Oh, this is getting really disturbing.
I'm so sorry. Listeners.
I was the one that brought it up.
Why would you do this, Francis?
My bad. I love talking about Freud and just being like, sometimes the theories say more about the theorist. Because of the stuff that he said and people going like, no, it meant there was so much more research and so much more theories around psychology because so many people disagreed with the shit that he'd said.
He really did get the discussion going. I looked back at the screen. The first thing I looked at was the word thick leather gaiters.
Yeah, so I want to find out exactly what thick leather gaiters are.
I think gaiters are a type of shoe. Like a boot.
They are boots.
He's taking off his thick leather boots.
Mr. Knightley was hard at work upon the lower buttons of his thick leather gaiters, and either the exertion of getting them together or some other cause brought the colour into his face.
Okay, that is definitely...
It sounds pornographic considering what we've just been discovering. So Emma's just gone, so do you love Jane Fairfax? And he's like doing up his shoes and stands up like, what? And he's bright red. Mrs. Weston presses Emma's foot. Mr. Knightley says something, then Emma presses Mrs. Weston's foot with interest. He loves her. And Emma's like, no, he doesn't. And he's like, so you're trying to set me up with Jane Fairfax. I have not the smallest wish for your marrying Jane Fairfax or Jane anybody. You would not come in and sit with us in this comfortable way if you were married.
He sees right through you, Emma. We all do.
Oh, he has...
Jane, no one called Jane. What about someone called Emma?
He'd never thought of her in this way. She doesn't have an open temper which a man would wish for in a wife. I wonder who has an open temper.
I could never possibly figure it out.
I love an open temper. She is reserved, more reserved, I think, than she used to be. Because she's got the secret about Frank, she is more reserved.
She's watching everything she says.
Emma brings up Mrs. Elton again. I have no faith that she will acknowledge herself the inferior to Miss Fairfax, no being under any restraint beyond her own scanty rule of good breeding.
Dang. Harsh words. I mean, correct.
Because, yeah, they went from talking about Jane and Mrs. Elton to then, Mr. Knightley, you love Jane, then a little bit back to Mrs. Elton.
We totally weren't only having this conversation to ask you about Jane and your feelings for her.
Mrs. West's like, yeah, he protests too much. Emma's like, damn it, I cannot win.
I don't love her. It means that he doesn't love her. Or he says, I don't love her, and it means he's trying to seem like he doesn't love her, but he does. There's no winning, no matter what he said.
No.
They would still hold their own individual beliefs of what he actually means.
Well, at least Mrs. Elton's already married, so we don't have to worry about her trying to marry anybody else.
Oh my god, she would totally go after Mr. Knightley
if she
hadn't married Mr. Elton. If she'd come to town by herself, she would have been going after Mr. Knightley. But Mr. Knightley would have not even given her the time of day.
But he would have had to be really polite.
He would have been polite.
And she just would have kept going because she wouldn't be able to take no for an answer, I don't think.
Yeah.
Consent, Mrs. Elton, it's very important.
I feel like Mr. Knightley, I mean, he's so straightforward in so many of his things. I feel like he's one of the few characters you can take for his word. Like, you can take his word for it, for the most part. Even if he was trying to be polite, he still wouldn't say anything he didn't believe.
Yes. You've got a new haircut, as opposed to saying, I like your hair. And people will hear, I like your hair.
Whereas if you say, your new haircut's interesting.
That sounds like an insult.
Yeah.
And that's our discussion of Chapter 33 of Emma by Jane Austen. I've been Frances Duncan. This has been Rachel Pilwer.
Bye.
Thank you for listening, and we wish you happy reading.